He says, "You want me just start?" Okay, well, he says, "I'm Bill Hoyt. I I've been wargaming for over 50 years. I first started gaming by meeting Charles Grant in England and playing a war game, getting excited about the whole thing. And in 1964, the Parade magazine ran a picture article about a bunch of people who were playing war games. At that time, it didn't interest me. But when I came back, having actually played a war game, I checked out the article and called a fellow by the name of David Wesely, and he introduced me to the group, and I spent the first meeting with a group sitting down talking to a fellow by the name of Dave Arneson. And I've been gaming on and off with that group and gaming basically for 50 years since. So,
You also have some relations with M.A.R. Barker.
oh yes, yes, yeah. I was the one that went after Professor Barker to bring him down to Lake Geneva to the Empire of the Petal Throne. Yeah, I was the reason why it got printed by TSR.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Now, there's also some history with you and Arneson. Early in Lake Geneva at Gen Con, you and Arneson met up.
Arneson, we went down. When we got the information that there was going to be a game convention down in Lake Geneva, we went down there, and Dave's sitting there saying, "Well, do you want to come with me? Well, I'm going over to Gygax's house." Well, Gygax, who's Gygax? He's the guy putting on the convention. Oh, that sounds like a neat idea. So we troped over and went to Gary Gygax's house, and we were kind of visitors at that house for the next 2 or 3 years when we went down the convention. We would go down there together, and I was privy to the relations between Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson.
Now,
That's why I took the game to Gary, took our Barker's game down there.
because he was a person who would get things published.
You're right.
Cool. The other thing is also you were in a private meeting with Arneson, Gygax, and
yeah, we were.
about
This was prior to one of the Gen Cons. We went over to that house. We were down in the basement, and we were talking about all the possibilities of war games, everything that would go on. And Gary and Dave were talking about, well, gee, there isn't very many games that deal with the Middle Ages. We should do a thing, and we'll collect figures and rules, and we're gonna play some of these games down here. That sounds like a good idea. Well, Gary says, we'll call it the Castle Crusade Society. And we both thought that was a good idea. And I'm sitting there talking to Kevin here, and I said, I know when the Castle Crusade started, because I was there. I was at the meeting, and he's got it down because of the Doomsday Book. That's not right. It happened before that. And then it dawned on me
that I didn't know.
Dave and Gary were both dead. So the only other person at the meeting, I kept trying to figure out who else would have been there in that basement at that time. Ernie? No, he was 10 years old. So Ernie wasn't there. And Kay, I don't think he was there. I'm pretty sure Kay wasn't there. But he's passed away too. So if anybody knew about this meeting, it was me. And nobody else knew.
Yeah, last survivor of that whole meeting.
Last man standing.
And we've already verified that, of course, you were the original owner of the Blackmoor Castle, which eventually transferred to Dwayne.
Yeah.
Especially when his fetishes with vampires.
That was so funny. I still thought that was funnier than heck.
Yeah.
Katie calls me up about that, and then Dave or Dwayne's telling me about going down there and finding a vampire, and I'm just shaking my head. Oh, God. He says, and Dwayne tells me, well, you know, Arneson's watching the Dark Shadows so he can tell me what happens when I don't get a chance to see it. Oh, God, these guys are nuts.
And if I recall correctly, I think talking with Wesley and a few others, that Arneson, if you missed the episode, he was very good at bluffing the plot of it.
Yeah, he would be able to do it too. Dwayne would just eat it up.
Yep.
God, he was so into that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you see the interview with on the Secrets of Blackmoor with Dwayne, you can see he was really into that. He really loved that thing.
Yeah. I never got to really get more than him saying, "Hi, I'm Dwayne Jenkins," on a video with him. Poor guy.
Yeah, we lost it so quickly when they finally got around to doing it. I kept telling these people, because I ran into Peterson,
Right.
and he had a film crew looking at that time. And I said, you got to talk to Dwayne.
Right.
Well, that went a year or so down the line. And he sent a crew up here. And when that crew came up here, I said, you've got to go and talk to Dwayne.
Right.
And then Griff came, and he comes to me, and I said, you know, you got to go talk to Dwayne. And he did go talk to him once.
Yeah.
But he waited another year, and by that time, Dwayne was losing it even more.
Yeah.
God, we lost him so fast at that time.
Yeah. I was looking forward to another game with him when I got word he had passed away.
Yeah.
And then you also have Pete Gaylord, who also passed away.
Yeah.
The first wizard of the game. Him and his super berries.
Yeah. Yes.
The first fireball.
I'll tell you about the...
Yeah.
Okay, this big game. I'm trying to reset, you know? I don't know whether you knew this or not, but I have a kind of a problem with Ross. Ross and I don't quite mesh. He kind of rubs me the wrong way a lot of times. And I wondered, you know, well, why in the world did I dislike Ross so much? Well, we fought this game all stinking night. I looked out of the window of the basement, and the light was coming in. And the reason why we were playing until the daylight came in was because Ross had a group of knights who were trying to corner a group of very fast, very mobile peasants against a corner. And he kept at it because he would not give up.
I've seen that in
him.
him.
Why the hell did you know, we had to play and play. Everybody else went home except for the guy playing the peasants and Ross and me. And we're playing this game on and on and on and on.
Yep.
And I said, why the hell are we still doing this? When I saw the thing out of the window, the guy playing the peasant says, well, to hell with it. And so he fought with Ross, and that was the end of it.
Yep.
Because he knew he was going to get wiped out if he did that. Yep. And, you know.
And speaking of...
In fact, I don't know whether, I can't even remember whether he actually fought Ross or whether he just walked off the board at the end. But the only reason why he wasn't going to give up is because he could dance around Ross all night.
Yeah. It's the object. I've got the Yamato big gun on my big battleship versus I'm a little fighter, you can't catch me.
Yeah.
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 That's a Star Blazers reference that I was watching.
I'm the guy with the with the E-boat.
Yeah.
And all you've got is the 18-inch guns to shoot at me with.
Yep.
You don't have any small anti-aircraft guns. You can't shoot me down individually. You have to get me one at a time.
Yep.
And I'm too small.
Well, the evening is getting long.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's fun.
Well, I thank you for your time.
Sure, no problem.
All right, you take care.
Yeah.
Here we are at Bill Hoyt's house in Ellsworth, Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's the place. Yeah.
Yes, an hour and a half from where I live. So we've been discussing the recent discoveries and updates, and discussing what's going to be in the second movie. Well, we don't know what's going to be in the second movie, but we have pretty good guess. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to say hello.
Welcome.
Hello. This is not streaming live, so this will be edited later. So if there are things that need to be taken out, I can.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah. So, can you describe to me the most recent thing that you kind of stumbled across? The documentation.
Most recent thing that I've stumbled across. So basically, it isn't something new. It's something I've always had, but I'm working with it.
Rediscovering.
We had a battle at my parents' house.
Yeah.
And Dave ran it. It was a medieval Braunstein. It was after the start of the Castle Crusade Society.
So that was shortly after you met with Gygax, Arneson, and yourself.
Yeah, and when we and Wesley had gone off to school.
Sure.
And Arneson arranged for this game to be played. So he asked me, because I was the other original person in the Castle Crusade Society, would you want to run this game? And I said, yeah, we'll run it. And he said something about the fact that, do you have figures? Well, of course, I was collecting the Airfix figures. I've been doing that ever since I got into gaming. And so I had the Robin Hood and the Sheriff of Nottingham figures. And so I had tons of figures for them. And I can't remember whether Dave brought others or not. But I do know that I remember preparing for this game by putting down pieces of masking tape and sticking figures on them to make sure that we had the right numbers for each person. And when the game got done, I ended up with the people left their sheets behind. All the setting of what they were supposed to do. And so I picked them up. I said, well, can I, keep these? And the only thing I did not get from Dave is in his notebook that he tore these pages out of, he had a 1 page of the tactical rules, which I asked him about because I thought, well, we're going to play war games with the medieval stuff. Where'd you get that stuff? Oh, it's just something we just threw together because what I'm hoping to run this game again, it's pretty obvious. The game was not based on the battle. It was based on the diplomatic and other things that people were going to do in the game. Each person had a goal and different things they would get points for by doing different things. And there were reasons for them not getting along or getting along with each other. And It gave me enough of the information that I have now created a new map. And basically, like I said, the thing that about the rules that struck me was they were almost exactly like the Featherstone rules in the wargame book, but the new thing that had been added was this saving throw for armor. If you had plate armor, you got to roll again to see whether you got killed. And this was new. That was the only thing that I noticed that was different in that set of rules than anything else.
So this is still a little bit before Arneson came up with his armor class system and hit point system.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Cool.
And it is similar to the chainmail system or the Warhammer system.
And that stuff kind of sounds like it came out later.
Yeah.
Like later on in May of, was it?
Well, I know for a fact that I did not get a copy of Chainmail
Right.
until the next Gen Con.
Right. And also there was the Medieval Combat, which was in Domesday, which was published after this, as I understand.
After this event, right.
So Arneson was dabbling with a few rules, not chainmail just yet.
Yeah,
Was there anything you recall that was fantasy related, like, let's say...
No, this was...
No trolls, no monsters?
This was all strictly... There were Vikings, there was an invader, there were knights, there were peasants,
Purely
there were...
historically...
so all the historical stuff, because that's basically what we had talked about with the Castle Crusade Society.
Right.
So there was no... This was not a Dungeons and Dragons game.
Right. I know when we were at last Gary Con, one of the audience members was curious about when fantasy started to poke its nose. Now, we know from some documentation that we've stumbled across that Arneson was playing with fantasy elements before the actual guided version came out, which Arneson always referred to as the second chainmail set of rules. He always referred to the one in Domesday as the first set of chainmail, even though it wasn't called that.
Yes, I remember that. I remember Dave saying that this is the second version.
Right.
He said that when I picked it up.
And I know Arneson has told me, for example, he used the rules that didn't have the fantasy supplement, and he kept pointing to, and said it came from the Domesday book. And now that we have a copy of that, it didn't say chainmail, but obviously I'm going to assume it clicked in your head, this is chainmail, because it just added the fantasy supplement when it finally printed. So any luck in stumbling across anything that says back and forth fantasy elements anywhere that you've seen?
Not in any of that. All I know about the beginning of the fantasy business was when Arneson called me up and asked me if Jenkins could take over the castle. This was kind of a surprise to me because at that time I wasn't too sure what he was talking about, but he had given everybody a fief that was in the Castle Crusade Society. That was me.
You were, you had the Blackmoor castle.
So he had given me the castle.
Right.
But he said, "Can Jenkins run it?" And I said, "Sure." Jenkins was my friend. I've been gaming with him for years, and I said, "Sure, let him take it."
And I've talked with various people, and I know that it seems like Jenkins would show up early, and then Arneson would start playtesting things.
That was the thing. That's what I'm talking about. Because when I came back around Christmas time, I'm talking to Dwayne about this, and he says, "Oh yeah, you know that there was something that crawled into the base of that castle, and I had to go down and root it out." And I said, "What?" Well, and he said he's talking about this. And of course, at this time, Dwayne is just really into Dark Shadows.
Right. And by the way, I just got the entire series from
So
Amazon.
that's the whole point, you know? So he was going to get the. He found a vampire down there. And that was under the castle. And he was doing this. And as he recalls, before a Napoleonic game.
Right.
So, as far as I know, he's the first person to do a dungeon crawl.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard from, I guess, the various members which we game every Wednesday that there seemed to be Dwayne showing up. They would do some sort of game, and people kind of hear a little bit about it as they're getting pulled away from it to resume the Napoleonics. And eventually people inquired more and more until eventually Arneson started opening it up to them, as I understand it. That would be the golden pile if there's any documentation anyone, of course, comes across. But, yeah, it matches up with all the other documentation that we have so far. Anyway, I wanted to reiterate, there's always more stuff being discovered. Bill is one of the people who's still going through his stuff. I'm still going through my stuff. And, of course, we have, well, a room full of stuff we all scanned in, and I'm sure Griffith is still going, what the fuck did I get myself into? Anyway, I'm going to end this portion. If something comes up, we'll resume. Take care.
Stuff, you know, and so Greg would always be putting it down. Well, you see, then I didn't know that, you know? I did know Dave was doing that, you know? Because I'd see these little drawings from time to time. And then, of course, the other ones, I remember when they were doing when he got down to Lake Geneva.
Right.
And he's down there in Lake Geneva, and they were doing the fantasy version of Fight in the Skies. You know, fighting flying dragons and stuff like that. Oh, you're going to do that?
I know we played that game the last Gary Con last year, 2019. Yeah. Griffith ran the game. He had a copy of the rules. It is essentially the rules that eventually got included in Dungeons & Dragons for aerial combat.
Right.
And, yeah, it was interesting to see the game play. And especially when Griffith pulls out Gertie and starts flying around. Now, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I will claim ignorance. I have a lot of stuff on Blackmoor, including the Final Fantasy. I've never actually read it.
Yeah, the Final Fantasy, I had to go back and look it up again because I had read it when I got it.
Right.
But then I went back and I read the things because I just laughed my head off because I know who the hell he's talking about.
Yeah.
I could tell this is Greg Scott and this is Randy Hoffa and this is right. And there's Marshall Heckfeld and I know who that is. Yeah.
Who was it? The one that always ran off on his own and.
That's Marshall.
Marshall.
Oh God. Yeah, Arneson told me that was one of my favorite stories of dungeoning because I would talk to Dave after I got into playing the game about what do you do about these things and he says, yeah, Marshall, God, he's a pain in the butt. We'd go for this was his story. The party was going down the tunnel. And the rest of the party says, okay, we come to a four-way. I'll go straight ahead. Okay, well, so they're going to go straight ahead. Marshall's, I'm going to take the left corridor. And they're playing on, and Dave says, geez, God, I can't keep doing this damn thing. So finally, he'd tell Marshall. Roll a dice. Roll. You got to make a saving throw. And at that point, Dave said there wasn't any point because I knew damn well he was. I had already set this up. He was going to fail. And he'd say, "Well, I got such and such." And he said, "Well, you just fell down a pit, and you're falling." Okay, so they went on playing the game. And, "Well, what about me?" "Well, you're still falling." David made it a bottomless pit. Oh, God. Marshall was just a disaster. He really was. God.
The funny thing is that also reminds me of one of my games. A friend of mine at a gaming group had a person who was adventuring through the sewers. Mm-hmm. And he had left the party too.
Yep.
And the GM goes, "All right, so what do you do?" He goes, "What do I see? What do I smell?" "Well, it's dark. You don't have a torch. You smell something. It smells like rotten eggs.
Yeah.
Something that smells earthy." And he goes, "Okay, I light a torch."
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
And the GM goes, "Are you sure?"
Yes.
"Yes." "Are you sure you're sure?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Yes." "Okay."
We got Netflix, so I'm watching The Money Pit. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah.
And she turns on the gas and starts looking for a match, and the guys are out there and they smell. Oh God! No! Don't do that.
Yep. Yeah. So he lights the torch, and of course the explosion occurs.
Yep.
And apparently, from every game they played since, a dimension door would open up. He'd be running right through. Opens up another dimension door. That's the other side. The flames chase right behind him. Door one shots. Door two shots. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's in actually. Terry Pratchett uses that.
Yeah.
He's got Rincewind running through other people's things. And he pops in through a dimensional door and goes right out the other side with something chasing him. And what was that?
Well, I have no idea where they got the idea from, but I wasn't in the game. But when I heard it, was hilarious. It matches up with Mr. Funk's story too.
Yeah. Oh, Fred. Oh, God. Did you ever hear that story? The time between the crazies, between Fred and Marshall. This is something that Jeff Barry told me.
Is this the one with the shotgun? Okay, go on.
Something like that. Yeah, it was. Actually, it wasn't a shotgun from what I gathered, but they were gaming. Fred was running the game, and so it was Fred's house, and Fred's sister is pretty sharp.
Right.
Marshall started to hit on her, so she goes over to tell Fred. He's bugging the hell out of me. You stop him from bugging me. And Fred stops running the game, opens up his briefcase, pulls out his service weapon, and starts to load it. And, and it was an automatic, so he pulls it back, cocked it, points it at Marshall, and the other guys are going, we'll say you were never here, Fred. We don't know anything about this. We don't know anything about this. And Fred goes, oh, hell, puts the gun down. Marshall was out of the door and gone, and he never came back. God, he was crazy.
Fred Funk's the one that's famous for the dungeon traps, right?
Yeah.
And the trolls and the orcs.
Yeah, the orcs. That's in the first campaign. The trap, when you get up on the top, you're going around like the first level, and you find this door that leads to a stairway. And if you go in the stairway, you get trapped. And the only thing you do is go down. It goes down 100 levels. It is called the Orcian Way. And it was Fred's trap. It goes straight down to Orc Heaven down there in the bottom. And as you walk down, it plays Rule Britannia backwards. You hear that. You're insane.
Well, okay, this is one thing I've always wanted to hear a definition of. It's the Orcian Way. How would you define it? Because I've heard Dave and several others mention it, but they really haven't defined it to me.
That's all I know. It was this stairway that descended down to the orcs in Blackmoor Dungeon. And it was a trap. Are we ready?
It's done.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Let's go over table and devour.
Well, I thought.
All right, this is Bill Hoyt's gaming table. Right above is a hole which you could do paratrooping down, or if you really sold tickets, could sell viewing a game going on.
I'm going down this list. I know Henry, I know O'Leary, I know Ross, Dan, Pete, Randy, Tony, and myself. I know them all, but there's Trudan. Who the hell is Trudan? I know who it is now.
Who was it?
It was Dave. He was setting up a non-player character.
Now, on any of the stuff that you had...
See, I was going down that list, you see what I mean? Yeah. Here's that one. Tony Killen. Here's Dwayne. He's dead. He says he didn't come. Mike Norman never came. Dale Nelson's dead. Randy is... Pete is dead. Nicholson's dead. So there are only two left that were in the original game. Randy...
Right.
And Ross. And I haven't been able to get a hold of Ross.
Nah.
Can you get a hold of Ross?
I think so. I think he's been at the game once or twice. I know Randy has.
Yeah.
So.
Well, so anyway, I got it all set up. These are the troops. They're all ready to go. And this is the sheet that was made for it. And there's the troops that are supposed to be there.
See the troops one more time? Open up one more time.
These are the same figures. Most of them are the same figures.
And you say this is more of a Braunstein role-playing situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Done in medieval.
Yep.
All right.
And here's another one. That's that one. And then here's another one. This is mercenaries. And these are the invader and the peasants. And I went through each one of them. Oh, wait a minute. What's going on here?
Is that the map?
This is the map I made up from what Dave said and what I remember.
Okay.
Because I remember the castle being on it.
Yep.
And
was the castle on an island, or you just simply...
it was a castle. I just put that in that way.
All right.
That was my new way of doing it. But this is...
That's always been an interesting thing to learn, how you guys used to map back then.
Now...
I remember Ooh.
I've made a copy of it.
Yep.
That we can roll out on a table. And see, Dave had something in here that kind of threw me about come from? Invader. That's the other invader force. Where is it? Dave says, okay, Vikings have 2 longships, right?
Sure.
Well, I didn't have any models of any longships.
Ooh.
So I made some.
Gotcha. Me, I would have probably just put a popsicle stick and put a bunch of guys on it.
See, they got the shields on the side. It's a regular Viking ship.
Yep.
I made it from stuff I'm just having fun doing this, you know. I'm
Sure.
Getting ready to do this.
Now, were you invited to do this game again, as I recall you? Okay.
No, I came up with this idea,
Sure.
and I asked Wesley if what he thought, and he said, "Well, when you talk to this guy at Fantasy Flight,"
Sure.
and so I did, and he's all for it. See, here are the buildings. That's going to be the monastery. This is the castle
Gotcha.
that was there.
So not using the Blackmoor Castle is something totally different.
No, it was this Airfix castle.
Gotcha.
Because the other one didn't exist at that time.
Gotcha. Not just yet. Cool.
So we're going to do that. And I have been making more things. So I'm trying to get it all together. So I'm going to put all that stuff in a box.
Mm-hmm.
Take the map.
Yep.
Get to the shop. Roll out the map. Glue it down or tape it down, and away we go.
Cool.
And anybody shows up, they get the sheet.
Do you recall the gentleman's name at Fantasy Flight? If it's who I think it is.
He arranged for Wesley's game.
Ah, yes. I know who it is.
Vince.
I see a V and a D somewhere in the name. And I'm bad with names as it is to begin with.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing.
Sure. I hope you don't mind if I'm going to do a swing through your gaming room.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Lots of stuff.
Just loaded. I've been doing this forever.
Yep.
See, there's my Braunsteins up there.
Yep. I'm about to paint mine.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a step-by-step right now. I got the top piece glued to the bottom piece.
Yep.
Ooh. Hope you don't mind.
That's a model I made of the city of Sierra del Rodrigo, which was a fort that was in a Napoleonic battle in that I fought. So we just thought that was cool. And I got my stuff. I got tons of stuff. I've had my games. Oh yeah, here. Something I did find the other day. I knew I had it. North Cape.
Ah.
Randy's trying to get a Kickstarter on it.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I'll hold off on showing the map because obviously you want to showcase that during the game. I think the gentleman's name is Victor. And I can't remember his last name. But he's a good guy.
Let me see, over here on the other side, I have all this stuff. I'm painting them suckers. Hey, you want decent pictures? Show ya.
There we go.
These are my newest knights. We just finished that guy. And this fella. On that one. I'm working on this one. Kind of impressive. Here's gold armor. Probably would be bronze plated or whatever, because nobody's going to have solid gold armor.
Yeah. Kind of makes you wonder if maybe the Green Knight that they speak of in...
I love these. I love these helmets. God, look at that one. That's got a stag head. There's a unicorn. Here's the lion. And here's a dragon head.
You know, it'd be funny, just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
What if they did one that had a lion, a witch, and somebody with a wardrobe on his head?
No wardrobe, yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
that's my sense of humor. All right.
Almost that way.
Yeah.
You got the
Make sure it doesn't fall out. Yeah.
lady on the top of the hill.
And if enchanted, it
Saint.
adds an extra fighter for you.
Yes, the lady.
Yeah.
And there's another unicorn. What's this one? Oh, yes.
Ah.
Because they're not glued on.
How do you feel the differences between the plastic figures and metal figures? Which do you prefer?
I prefer anything I can paint.
Fair enough.
Dice. Barker's dice for his gambling game from the Empire of the Petal Throne.
Gotcha.
And something.
Yeah, we got to create one for Dave.
Yeah, we should.
And the only thing I
Do
can...
you notice what I did?
Yeah?
This figure is unique because everybody else has him holding Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
He's holding EPT.
Ah.
So, and then this is the broken one, but I've got another one too.
Yep. I still yet to get a copy of the rules, and I think I'm going to go to Drive Through RPG and see if I can get them to print me a copy. I've not been successful on eBay. I'm easily outmatched on bidding. Ooh. Oh, yeah. Yep. One of the best things I think in the end, you know, Gary finally understood Arneson towards the end, and they became friends pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they were friends.
Yeah. They weren't really fighting.
The only reason they got into that is because of that Bloom family.
Yeah.
There was money.
Yep.
Money, still more money.
Yeah.
Lots of money. Yeah, they wanted the money.
Although I also suspect there's a lot of wasn't said, therefore assumed.
Yeah.
So,
They
yeah.
were a nasty bunch. The Blooms did so much damage